clear blue waters and rolling surf of California and Hawaii are a perfect playground in the sun. They're also a hunting ground. The great white is one of the few sharks big enough to attack and eat people. John Ferrara felt the force of one such attack.
When it first hit me, it was such a hard blow. I mean, it really hit hard, and it folded me in half so quickly I didn't have any idea what was going on.
Was it deliberate man-hunting, or did the shark make a mistake? Rod Orr has often asked himself the same question.
And the shark had buried its bottom teeth into my face here and through my nose, and the top teeth were in my neck. I think he realized that I wasn't a seal at that time, but why he didn't finish biting the head off and why he didn't thrash, I don't know. Just luck of the draw.
New research throws some light on why the attacks happen. Like killer whales and grizzly bears before them, large sharks are beginning to inspire respect rather than fear among the people who choose to share the oceans with them. The Farallon Islands are a national wildlife refuge administered by the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. They lie just 32 kilometers off the coast of California, west of San Francisco. In thousands of years of Native American legend, their sinister, jagged peaks were said to be the islands of the dead. For millions of years, they have been a regular feeding place of the white shark. Every autumn, these forbidding rocks attract a group of the huge predators. Sharks have small brains compared with other vertebrates, but their acute vision and sense of smell make them highly skilled and successful hunters. Rough seas and rugged wave-washed cliffs make this an excellent hunting ground. There are few other places in the world where white sharks can be so closely observed in the act of killing. Among their principal prey is the California sea lion. Adult males weigh up to 500 kilos, a worthwhile meal for a white shark. They share the islands with northern elephant seals. Peter Pyle is a biologist working with the team at the Point Reyes Bird Observatory, who spend 6 months of the year on the Farallon studying birds. In the autumn, his interest turns to pinnipeds, seals and sea lions, and to the sharks that prey on them. California sea lions haul out here to rest throughout the year, basking on the shore and often enduring plagues of flies as the price of their respite from the sea. In the autumn, they're joined by juvenile elephant seals coming ashore for the first time for months. The seasonal concentration of young, naive elephant seals draws white sharks like a magnet. Landing on these rocky shores is no easy matter. Especially at high tide, huge waves can wash the seals into the surf. When they find themselves in the water, the seals have to swim along the shore looking for a place to haul out. The sharks are waiting for them, and Peter Pyle is waiting for the sharks.
Shark is a visual predator, white shark here, more than anything. It stalks in the depths, probably behind ridges, against the rocks where the pinnipeds are going to have a harder time seeing it. And then when the time's right, it'll rush up from below and strike the pinniped at the surface. So I think that background coloration gives the shark an advantage to hunting over rocks, as opposed to sand, where the silhouette of the shark would probably be clearly visible from above.
The researchers on the Farallon see as many as 80 attacks every autumn. course of their annual hunt, they occasionally attack people as well. Every year, tens of thousands of sunseekers migrate to the beaches and surf of California. Thousands more have settled here to enjoy the eternal summer. Beneath them, the sharks are watching. Sharks have increased in number along with the populations of seals and sea lions, which are protected by federal law. Many of the best surfing beaches are near their breeding colonies or reefs where they rest. In 50 years, there has been a total of 60 attacks on humans in California, 6 of them fatal. With the rising number of people in the water, it's surprising that there haven't been more. But are they acts of deliberate hunting, or just cases of mistaken identity? A surfer paddling out to sea, arms waving and feet trailing, must look to a shark remarkably like a sea lion. Kirk Johnson and John Ferrara are dedicated surfers. Both survived attacks by white sharks. Kirk Johnson was hit by an immense force.
I really didn't know what was going on. I had no clue of what was going on until the thing started shaking me really hard. And I knew what was going on then. I started reaching back and hitting the shark on the head and the mouth and the face with my hand. And it was still shaking me. It was about 5 feet underwater, shaking me pretty hard. And the shark was right next to me. I had the dorsal fin right next to me, and then farther back, a tail fin about 8 feet back, a tail fin just sitting there right next to me, not moving at all. So I screamed at it and kicked at it and kind of started swimming backstroke away from it. And then it just let go of me. And I came to the surface, and the water was turning all dark around me with blood. But this thing was huge. It was at least 15 feet, probably 18.
Mine was about the same, very large. I describe it as about the size of a Volkswagen, the body of it, just the girth. And the fin of it was about 3 feet out of the water while it was just going past me very slowly. And you pretty much know exactly what it is. It's something wanting to eat you, you know, and you want to get the hell out of there.
Typically, among surfers who have been attacked, both men returned to the water as soon as they could. John Ferrara within a month of his encounter with the shark. But both now avoid surfing near places where seals are numerous. Rocky reefs, where they haul out to bask, are often attended by sharks. Seals and sea lions have been the prey of white sharks for at least 20 million years. They prefer cold waters, but being warm-blooded, they're swift and agile and difficult for the sharks to catch. Some of them have had narrow escapes. California's sea lions are attacked far less often than elephant seals. This might be because they travel and rest in groups, with more pairs of eyes on the lookout for danger. White sharks have evolved to catch their nimble prey by a remarkable adaptation. They maintain an internal temperature a few degrees higher than that of the surrounding water. Warm muscles allow the shark to attack in a sudden burst of speed out of its ambush on the sea floor. Another advantage of being warm-blooded is that it helps the shark to digest the blubber of seals or whales, a very rich source of energy. The great whales, before their decline, might also have played an important part in the diet of the white shark, especially as carrion. Its immensely thick layer of insulating blubber makes a whale a huge reserve of energy for a shark big enough to bite into it. Now, though, humpback whales are scarce, along with blue whales and sperm whales, and to find a carcass washed up on a beach is a rare treat for a foraging shark. But if there is one to be found, the shark's acute sense of smell will detect it. This humpback whale, having died of unknown causes, provides a huge meal for hungry sharks. Scientists studying the fuel economy of sharks have found that 27 kilos of whale blubber is enough to sustain a great white for 45 days. But today, scavenging whales is not a reliable source of food. A large predator must have easy access to an abundant source of living prey. At Ano Nuevo, on the coast of California, the beach is paved with elephant seals. Their huge, blubbery bodies represent an overflowing larder for white sharks, one that is regularly raided. The rather elegant females can only watch and try to keep out of the way as the dominant bulls fight for their favors. Years ago, this colony contained 25,000 animals. Now it's 10 times as big, at 250,000. This increase in food supply is good fortune for the white sharks. The seal colony is literally a pup factory. As soon as they're weaned, the babies will have to leave the beach and start to feed themselves. It will be 6 months before they see land again. Many of those now feeding contentedly at their mothers' sides will find themselves seeking shelter on the wave-swept rocks of the Farallon Islands. It's as well that they have no way of knowing what awaits them there. Even the big old bulls have no defense against adult white sharks.
The great white shark is an apex predator.
that feeds on marine mammals. When they're young, they feed on fish. As they grow older, they begin feeding on strictly marine mammals. And that puts them at the top of the food chain. The elephant seal is considered to be the preferred prey at the Farallons, in that they're solitary animals. They're easy to capture because they're slow swimmers, and they tend to be naive when they're young, and they sit at the surface, which they shouldn't do. It's very exciting to see a shark in the water. These sharks are huge. You know, we're talking 15 to 18 feet with a weight of maybe 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. And they have an amazing presence in the water. As they move through the area, they're very controlled. They know where they're going before they get there. And so you just are kind of in awe of this silent, huge predator moving through the water.
As it patrols beneath the waves, a shark can see the silhouettes of seals and sea lions at the surface. It relies on stealth and surprise. Sea lions moving in packs are hard to surprise, but elephant seals are often alone. The shark rushes up from the bottom in an ambush attack and bites the seal so that it dies almost instantly. A lethal bite ensures the seal can't fight back and injure the shark. It's a very violent, aggressive attack. The seal dies quickly from loss of blood. To take bites out of the carcass, the shark must swing its head back and forth in a sawing movement, cutting through muscle and bone while its huge tail drives it forward. 10 centimeters of blubber provides high-energy food for the predator. A human body, even a fat one, would be bony by comparison. Peter Pyle monitors the attacks from his vantage point high on the island. Most attacks take place in the high-risk zone, within 500 meters of the shore. Once the location is pinpointed, Pyle hurries to the boat landing. If it's a big seal, it may take the shark half an hour to eat it. This gives the team time to get on the water and alongside the kill. They're grateful when the sea is relatively calm. Their boat is only just over 4 meters long. When they reach the seal, the 2 men lower underwater cameras beside the boat. Other sharks will try to move in for a bite at the prey, but if the original killer is a big animal, they stay away. Scars on their skin show that white sharks often fight over their food. These marks, together with the shape of their dorsal fins, enable Pyle and Scott Anderson to identify individual predators.
We're out there getting as much video as we can on these sharks, and a lot of them have scars of various types. Some of them look like aggressive scars where maybe one shark has come in and bitten another to kind of warn it away from the carcass. A lot of the females seem to have scars along the gills, which may relate to mating scars. These scars are pretty permanent. They look white at first and then they turn black, and after a while, you know, we will mark down all the spots where these scars are, and we'll be able to use those in our individual ID.
In 8 years of work, Scott Anderson has identified more than 50 white sharks at the Farallon Islands. 20 of them return time and time again. He finds that large individuals tend to feed in the same place each year, patrolling areas where they've been successful before. Smaller sharks, less well established in the hierarchy, move around the island much more, looking for chance encounters with prey. After the initial violent attack, sharks feed in a controlled, almost calm manner, contrary to the popular idea of a feeding frenzy. A 180-kilo meal will be finished in between 5 and 10 bites, of 13 to 23 kilos each. The biologists watch individual sharks for periods of anything from 1 day to over 4 weeks. They think that once a shark has had a successful hunt here, it moves away from the islands to the seal breeding colonies and haulouts on the mainland coast. They have seen as many as 80 attacks in one season. From this, they estimate that at least 27 white sharks regularly hunt seals at the Farallons. Working in a boat that's smaller than the sharks that surround it takes courage.
It's always a thrill when you've got white sharks circling around below you. I don't think we'll ever kind of get over that thrill. You know, we don't feel any real threat from them. They're just there, they're looking at us, they're curious. It's interesting in that the biggest ones seem to be the smartest about it and know sooner that we're not edible and disappear quicker. It's actually the little ones that we're a little more worried about, maybe the 9 to 12 footers that we see here, because they're less experienced. We don't know what they're going to do. They're less predictable as far as I'm concerned. They're the ones that may end up getting a little excited near the boat. I think they're also the ones that might be hitting surfers more off the coast, or the small ones, because when a shark hits a surfer or a surfboard, or the boat for that matter, it's making a mistake. It doesn't really want to do that. It's not gaining anything from it. So I think when a surfer gets attacked, it's probably these smaller ones that don't realize what they're doing quite as much as the bigger, more experienced sharks.
Well, last year I was scared by a shark that came up to investigate the board that I had out when it was really close to the boat, actually bringing it into the boat about a foot away. And when the shark attacked it, it went violently through the area, incredibly quick, incredibly loud, and it really scared me. So it made me realize that there's certain times when dealing with these animals where there is some danger. But most of the time, when they're around the boat, they're very controlled, they're looking for food, and it usually seems pretty safe to me for the most part.
It's safe, for the most part, for other people working underwater close to the Farallon Islands. They're abalone fishermen collecting highly prized shellfish for the market. Abalone are plentiful here, but rare in other parts of the California coast. One reason for their abundance off the Farallons is the danger from attack by white sharks. Divers are most vulnerable while they're on the surface or in the water column. On the seabed, they're relatively safe from ambush. There, the sharks no longer have the natural advantage of camouflage. As they measure the abalone to make sure that they're above the legal minimum size, the divers keep a sharp lookout for cruising great whites. Thousands of sport divers also gather abalone, but they do it by snorkeling without the benefit of scuba gear. They must return repeatedly to the surface to breathe, and this is when 90% of shark attacks take place. Rod Orr holds the dubious distinction of having been attacked twice in his pursuit of abalone.
Just at the edge of vision, I saw something, but I didn't realize what it was, and then the little light dawned. What I could see was the gills on this white shark, and the shark was like 10, 11 foot long, and it closed on me. And when I looked back at it, it closed the distance by half, and then it started coming in fast, and I knew it was after me. And when I tried to get behind this rock, and when I tried to get behind it, the shark came in on my left side. His mouth just opened up, and his jaw actually just came out of his mouth. And I had a row of teeth marks up in my scalp where he bit down. And the worst damage was probably to my nose and to my lower eye, because I had a hole through the upper eyelid and the bottom eyelid. All I could see was the teeth out of my, from my left eye. I could see the water down there, and I could see all the teeth in the top jaw and the bottom jaw. But I was face down in it, and it was just like, they looked huge. They looked like they were 3 inches long. I know they weren't that big, but they were just all white. And I could see about 10 or 12 teeth. I thought he was about 12 feet, but they measured the bite marks and I figured he was like 15 to 17. When I reached up on him, he felt like a Buick. He was huge.
Why did the shark spit Rod out? Most probably he felt wrong. Instead of having a deep layer of blubber, his head was hard and bony, without enough fat to make a worthwhile meal. In Hawaii, tiger sharks include prey with just such a bony exterior in their diet. Hawaii has some of the most famous surfing beaches in the world. It's where the sport was invented. In fact, for Hawaiians, it's more than a sport. It's a way of life with cultural, even religious overtones. The clear blue waters are a playground for thousands of people and home to an enormous variety of marine life, including the tiger shark. The old Hawaiians had a special word for sharks that eat people, nui. Even before natural prey such as large fish and lobsters, monk seals and green turtles had been reduced by overhunting, the tiger shark was known to take people. Local surfers reassure themselves in different ways about the dangers of surfing in shark-infested waters.
Well, I'm not worried about the tiger shark because I feel like that's my alma kua, which means it's a religious belief that Native Hawaiians have about the sharks.
Depends. If there's a lot of people around, I don't worry about it too much because the odds of getting eaten is probably a little less. But when you go surfing other secret spots and stuff, that's when you're always like looking down, checking it out.
If you were to go surfing, go snorkeling when it's flat, you'd see 1 million turtles, and that's what the tiger sharks eat.
Green turtles are a regular part of the tiger shark's diet. Whole shells have been found in their stomachs. If white sharks sometimes mistake people for seals, do tigers think surfers are turtles? David Silver thinks they might.
We're on the east side, on the island of Kauai, at this beach called Wailua Beach. I got attacked off this point here, about 75 yards out from shore. To me, I think he thought that I was a turtle because my board is yellow, and with my hands paddling in the water, it makes me more look like a turtle. So I think he thought that I was a turtle and he came for me.
It's severe. This is the top part of the jaw. He was lying on the surfboard. The bottom jaw got the bottom of the board. So from here to here is the corner of the mouth, so it came onto the back of the leg this way. It never got the back of the knee, but it got into the ligaments and some of the muscle.
David Silver was lucky. Other surfers had died in recent years from tiger shark attacks. He was badly hurt, but able to paddle his board safely to the shore. It's commonly believed in Hawaii that turtles are the preferred prey of tiger sharks, and that surfers paddling their boards look too much like turtles for safety. Green turtles are listed as a threatened species, since overfishing depleted their numbers and their nesting beaches were destroyed by tourism. For years, it was rare for a scuba diver or a snorkeler to see one in the wild. There are nowhere near as many turtles as surfers, but after years of protection, their population has recovered considerably. The increase in the turtle population has coincided with a rise in the number of shark attacks on people. Can there be a connection? Marine biologists keep a check on the turtle population. Although it is rising, it's still at risk and far below the numbers that were once here. The scientists catch the turtles by hand to study their progress. They're still not common, but they're surprisingly unwary over the sandy bottom a mile off Honolulu. George Ballas is a research biologist with the National Marine Fisheries Service in Honolulu. He's not convinced of the link between turtles and sharks.
Our research program started in 1972, 22 years ago. We have specifically gone to places in Hawaii that are the best sites for turtles. And in all those years of diving, I have never once encountered or even seen a tiger shark. One would think that if I'm exposing myself to higher risk being with the turtles, that I would have at least seen one, and such has not been the case. I think anybody that's in the ocean should have a healthy fear of sharks, but to think that they look like a turtle, I think is no basis for it whatsoever. Any object in the water at or near the surface could be liable to be snapped at by a shark. You don't have to look like a turtle in order to be eaten by a predator.
The first confirmed killing of a person by a shark in Hawaiian waters for 3 decades took place in 1991, and there have been others since. There was a public outcry, much of it from the tourist industry. The state of Hawaii set up the Shark Task Force to work out a management plan for shark attacks. At that time, little was known about tiger shark movements. The Shark Task Force had to make an immediate decision as to the best way to protect people, but they were aware that further research was needed.
Well, as soon as people started, there were shark attacks that were happening and a few people were killed by sharks. There's a huge public outcry to do something about this situation.
The removal of a couple of tiger sharks from an area after an attack is going to have a very minimal effect on the ecosystem.
Because we were making a decision, if we're going to do any fishing, we're going to try and do it to make sure that we got the fish that actually was the cause of the attack. Otherwise, I don't think as biologists we just go out and randomly kill sharks to appease public opinion. It was our best guess that if we went within 24 hours, we might catch the shark that did it. We also know we need a lot more research to know about the biology of these animals, to know what are the chances of actually catching that animal within 24 hours. Will it be there or won't it?
To answer the questions raised by the task force, the Hawaiian State Legislature funded a study of tiger sharks. The principal investigator is Dr. Kim Holland, a scientist with the Hawaiian Institute of Marine Biology. He follows their movements around Oahu's densely populated coastline.
We don't know if the same fish come back to the same area day after day. We don't know if they have a home range that they patrol on a daily basis or a weekly basis. We don't know what the size of that home range is, if there is one. We don't know if, in fact, there's just a continual stream of new sharks coming past any given point on the shoreline. And until you know those kinds of things about their movement patterns, any control mechanisms or any control programs you might want to put in place won't have any scientific direction to them.
After each attack, the state of Hawaii caught and killed tiger sharks, 11 in all. Private fishermen thought this wasn't enough. They killed 44 in a single year.
Every time there's an attack, the state takes out 1 or 2 sharks and they call it quits. So I want to just keep a consistent basis of bringing out sharks. If I can make a few bucks on it. Okay. If fishing's slow, get sharks, why not? If I'm not going to do it, who's going to do it? Okay. The state doesn't want to do it on a regular basis. They don't want to pay anybody, they don't want to take any contracts out, so I'll just do it on my own.
Killing a shark, any shark, might make the surfers and the travel agents feel that something was being done. But Kim Holland points out that not enough is known about tiger sharks and their habits. In his study, a female tiger shark hooked on a floating line is held on her back, a position in which she is helpless. An incision in her belly will contain a small radio transmitter which will give away her position after she's released.
0036.
Before she can be set free, someone has to take the hook out of her mouth.
One of the other things we're finding along those lines is that these sharks have no qualms about going offshore into deep blue water. One of the preconceptions was that these animals were coastal. This isn't the case at all.
Holland's study is the first to explore the movements of tiger sharks, which have been a mystery until now. They drop an underwater antenna to listen for the signals from the radio. It has a range of 1.5 kilometers. The ship will stay on the trail for as long as their stamina and their fuel hold out, usually for about 48 hours. On one trip, they found themselves 60 kilometers offshore in this time.
Well, as often is the case, when you finally get a chance to see an animal or observe an animal in its own environment, you get surprises, things you didn't anticipate.
Common folklore holds that tiger sharks patrol a small coastal area, a shark's personal territory. Instead, the researchers are finding tiger sharks travel great distances from island to island and plunge as deep as 300 meters, the deepest recorded for tiger sharks.
We had no idea that these fish had this ability to go so deep so easily and without apparently any restrictions on their movement patterns. So again, these are the kind of things that you can't find out without observing the animal in its own environment, and this is the first chance that we've had to do that with tiger sharks.
Kim Holland's findings suggest that it's probably pointless to try to cull rogue sharks after attacks. The fish responsible will be long gone, and any shark killed will be replaced by another coming in from elsewhere. It seems as though a single hunting shark can cover a huge area. It might return to the same place to feed again, but only after traveling an enormous distance. The same sharks that hunt around Oahu might travel 800 kilometers to a group of sandy atolls known as the northwestern islands of Hawaii. The marine life here is less disturbed and therefore much richer than that of the main islands. Large predatory fish called ulua are still abundant in this wildlife reserve. Elsewhere, they're heavily overfished because they're very good to eat. The northwestern islands are the home of the Hawaiian monk seal, an endangered species that has become rare in the main islands. There are about 1,400 of them here, their only breeding place. The monk seal is part of the regular diet of the tiger shark. Some of them here have bite scars and missing flippers, mementos of a lapse in alertness. The atoll's white sandy beaches are where the monk seals breed. Males come here to seek receptive females during the season, finding on the bright coral sand a haven beyond the reach of the patrolling sharks. This female is not yet in breeding condition. She rebuffs the male's advances, sending him on his way to look for a mate who will accept him. This puts him back in the water among the sharks. But tiger sharks are not as selective in their choice of prey as great whites. They will hunt anything that looks edible. At this time of year, black-footed albatross chicks are learning to fly. This, their first time in the water, is a bewildering experience. All around them, dark shadows move beneath the surface. Individual sharks know of this seasonal abundance of prey. Some of them have been here for a week, waiting for the first chicks to reach the water. These are the first fledglings to venture from their nests. The sharks are hungry, but they must maneuver in water only a meter or so deep. For the first few days, the sharks find it difficult to come to grips with their prey. They're out of practice. They haven't tried to catch albatross chicks since this time last year, and it takes time to get back into the knack of it. The chick fights back, pecking at its tormentor, instinctively aiming for the shark's most vulnerable spot, its eyes. During the first few days of fledging, many chicks escape in time to learn to fly. When the wind slackens at noon, the chicks stop trying to fly and return to the island. Surrounded by shallow water rich in fish, the islands are ideal for seabirds. More than 14 million seabirds of 15 different species come here to nest. There's hardly room for them all. They cover every inch of ground and even the smallest shrubs. There are boobies with blue bills and the black tropical terns known as noddies. Black and white sooty terns are the most numerous, making up almost 3/4 of the bird population. Some of the smallest populations are of the largest birds. The Laysan Albatross, 1 meter tall, has a wingspan of 2 meters. Its chicks grow rapidly in size and weight on a rich diet of regurgitated fish. By mid-June, they will be fed less and less often, with smaller amounts, and finally with nothing. Soon, their parents will leave the island, and the chicks will wait for food in vain. Without food, the chicks slim down to their flying weight and take every chance to exercise their flying muscles. Each morning, when the wind gets up, they face into it and flap their wings. The parents return to feed them one more time, and then prepare to leave, not to return for another year. The chicks make their way to the open beach where the breeze is strongest. Once on the wing, they might not return for 3 years, and they will not mate until they're 8 years old, if they survive that long. Now they must become airborne and survive the sea. On a calm day, this is very difficult and dangerous. The sharks have had time to learn since their first encounters with albatross chicks a few days ago. They know now that they must reach high out of the water to be sure of engulfing the bird, and they must strike fast before the prey escapes. If it misses a chick on the first strike, the shark turns and follows it upwind. Eventually, the young mussels tire and the bird drifts down to the water again. About 1 in 10 albatross chicks fall victim to sharks each year. More of them die of starvation or get drowned in the surf. Sharks and birds have coexisted here for millennia, without the bird population suffering from this level of predation. People have an option that is not open to albatross chicks. They can keep out of the shark's way and allow the magnificent predators their own rightful place as apex predators in the ocean. Native Hawaiians, with many generations' experience of tiger sharks, say that it's folly to play in the surf around sunrise or sunset. It's said that is the time when sharks come to feed in shallow water. Kim Holland's work does not bear this out. He thinks that they're there all the time, but the odds against being attacked are 1,000,000 to 1. One thing to bear in mind is that if these powerful, adaptable hunters wanted to eat people, they would, and nothing would stop them. It wouldn't be 60 attacks in 50 years, but 1 a minute. If sharks really were man-hunters, surfing would never have been invented. As it is, they're only occupying their rightful place at the top of the marine food chain. If they sometimes make a mistake, it behoves us to keep out of their way.